Star Wars, best place for below average Star Wars.
Hello there, and welcome to the Star Wars Show, a UK-based Star Wars podcast with in-depth discussions and analysis sprinkled with some silliness. I am the Geordie Jedi Pete.
And I am Star Wars Iain.
And we're very sad to announce that Mr. Jason Hondo Ling cannot attend today. He does have some, how shall we call this? Carbon freeze sickness, we'll say. Carbon sickness from being frozen in carbon freeze. So, Jason, we wish you a very speedy recovery. But we have got Star Wars news to talk about, so we do have to dive in and get going. And we're going to be talking about Star Wars casting, starting first and foremost. Obviously, as we mentioned last week, there is a new writer attached to Rey's new Jedi Order movie. This is the continuation of sort of Rey's storyline 15 years after the rise of Skywalker. And just this past week, Naomi Ackie, who of course played Jannah in Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker, she was speaking to Screen Rant during a Sundance interview for Sorry Baby, which must be her new movie. Obviously, Jannah was a former stormtrooper from the First Order who was sort of on that moon planet where our heroes sort of are looking for the ruins of the second Death Star. And she's expressed a desire to come back and replay Jannah in the continuation of the Rise of Skywalker storyline. She was asked about it and she gave a positive response. She said, "Ask them," she replied cheerfully. "Star Wars get it together. I get a call, we'll see what happens. I'll see if I'm free." Now that comment may seem sort of ambivalent, but there was a lot of joy in her voice, a lot of joy in her face. She made it very clear that she was very excited to sort of be talking about Star Wars. Obviously, doesn't want to give too many things away, but sort of putting the gauntlet down, shall we say, to say, "Lucasfilm, give me a call. Let's get the band back together, and I will return as Jannah." Obviously, it's been a big year. It's only February for Star Wars casting rumours. Jeremy Allen White is apparently coming in to play Road to the Hutt. Just last week, we were talking on this show about Ryan Gosling coming to Star Wars. Iain, what's your thoughts on, I suppose, where we are with the new Jedi Order film, sort of the continuation of Rey's storyline? And do you think Jannah's character can fit into the storyline?
Absolutely, yeah. It'd be good to see Jannah again. I like Naomi Akkie's performance in The Rise of Skywalker. I thought her and Finn had a good dynamic, and it'd be good to see. I would like them to go into the Stormtrooper rebellion type side of thing that they kind of teased in The Rise of Skywalker, and then obviously didn't really deliver on. But no, it'd be good to see her return and do something in that ilk. Whether, as you say, the 15 years has passed, and whether that, I doubt there's many Stormtroopers knocking about at this point. Potentially there might be, we don't know, but it'd be good to even see her in a military role in the whatever the new government will be called after the events of the sequel trilogy. But no, it'd be good. It'd be really good to see her. She's a good actress. I've seen her in a couple of other things. She's really good. And yeah, I think if you're going to bring Rey back, you do bring back the characters from the sequel trilogy as well.
Obviously, Jannah did connect very much with John Boyega's Finn, and then also connected with Lando Calrissian at the end of the movie, sort of teasing that maybe Jannah would either is Lando's long lost daughter or would help Lando find his daughter, maybe. So obviously, I'm assuming then that adventure would have already happened in the 15-year gap. But do you think we can see sort of Jannah's reference to both Finn and Lando in the continuation of the storyline, or do you think it'll be something different?
I think it'll be something different. Like I say, I don't know how obviously mobile and that Billy D is. I don't know if we could see that. I'm pretty sure like you said, the search would have concluded by this point. It'd be good to get references to it, or maybe like a throwaway line if that was the case, and she did come in for the movie. But it would be good. Like I said, and I'd like to see it with Finn, and obviously we all would really like it if John Boyega came back and became a Jedi, like the the rumors are that may be what his destiny was after the Rise of Skywalker.
And I'm trying to think back. Obviously, we know that in the Rise of Skywalker, they sort of pretty much insinuated that Finn was Force sensitive. Did they tease that Jannah was Force sensitive? I can't remember when her and Finn were talking about sort of feelings and things like that.
I'm not sure, to be fair, off the top of my head. Maybe, yeah. I do remember that conversation about a certain feeling and that. But no, not off the top of my head. I wouldn't. I can't remember, to be fair. I'd have to go back and watch the film.
I think either way, let's just say the new Jedi Order film, starring Daisy Ridley as Rey and the continuation of that story, obviously set to be directed by Sharmeen Obaid-Chinoy. If Rey's the Jedi and Finn's also the Jedi, I imagine, do you bring Oscar Isaac back as some sort of military leader, or who knows, maybe a politician now? And then obviously Jannah, obviously with her stormtrooper experience, but also freedom fight experience. She does fight against the Final Order, which is Palpatine's spin-off of the First Order. She does fight in that, so who knows? It'd be very interesting to see what happens and how this develops. What I would say is that the fact that we talked last week about a new writer team being on this movie seems to me like they're probably far away from obviously Rey's cast, because that's the main central cog of the casting. But I think other cast members, it won't get signed on until that script is nailed down, which it is not yet. So we will see. What's your thoughts on sort of this new Jedi Order film starring Daisy Ridley being on its third set of writers now?
I don't know really what to think. As long as they get it right, I'm not really bothered. Apparently, I've seen people say that this is quite common. I don't think, obviously, with Star Wars, you're going to get a more heightened publicity around it because obviously it's a major franchise. But as long as they get it right, I'd rather than take. I did laugh the other day because I saw a meme saying it's nice of Lucasfilm to actually give us a 15-year gap before the film comes out, which did make me laugh because it might take 15 years for this film. Yeah, it might take 15 years for the film to actually be actually made. But no, as long as they get it right, I'm all for them taking their time. I think that's something that was levelled at the sequel trilogy fairly, that it was quite rushed. So no, if they want to take their time, that's fine by me. We've got Mando and Grogu that's coming out next year, which is obviously going to be the next Star Wars film. So hopefully that will fill the gap, because I'm feeling a bit of a void now for a Star Wars film. Last one was 2019. The next one we're getting is 2026. Potentially, do we get something announced at Celebration that might slide in after the Mando and Grogu? We don't know. But for now, take your time. I'd rather you get it right than try and rush it out and it'd be a mess.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, as we said last week, I think it looks like the Ryan Gosling-led Sean Levy project, which has come out of nowhere, could be the next one to go into production, which hasn't even been announced by anyone. So go short, they're announcing these projects and celebrations and stuff, but we're probably gonna see. Well, just think, out of the 3 movies announced at Star Wars Celebration, none of them are in production yet, right? Because this Mandalorian and Grogu is not one of those. Although Dave Filoni was doing a movie, this is not that movie. That movie's going to come later. So it looks like we're going to have Mandalorian and Grogu in summer of 2026, and then possibly the Sean Levy directed starring Ryan Gosling movie, which we don't know what's going on with the sort of timelines, ahead of sort of this Rey film, ahead of James Mangold's Dawn of the Jedi movie, and obviously ahead of Dave Filoni's sort of Heir to the Empire, end of the Mandoverse type Grand Admiral Thrawn masterpiece that's going to come down the line. Moving on from sort of Star Wars casting in live action movies, there's been some gaming news. So there's new Star Wars themed armor and content coming to Destiny 2. I don't know if you've played Destiny 2, Iain, but sort of what's your thoughts on Star Wars content coming to non-Star Wars games? I know Star Wars has also been part of Fortnite in the past.
I played a lot of Destiny 1. I played a bit of Destiny 2, but it's one of them games that after a while I tend not to enjoy because it's just a loot-based grinding type of game. But no, it makes sense. It's harmless if you want to throw a couple of Star Wars skins in another game. I saw the image of them and they look pretty cool, to be fair. And that's how we get our Star Wars gaming fix. Then that's fine by me. Yeah, like I said, I don't see any harm in it. It's fun. I see a lot of other franchises do it and that type of thing. So yeah, no, I've got no issue with it. I think it's a fun little tie-in.
I think, what we've just been saying there about sort of the gap in Star Wars movies, for example, 2019 till 2026, it could be classed as, you're looking at 6 years between movies there. So I think things like this can keep the Star Wars bug alive. And also people might play Destiny 2 who don't know much about Star Wars, but, they're going to be getting access to new armor ornaments, accessories, emotes, and finishers inspired by Star Wars characters, including the Death Trooper, the Imperial Royal Guard, and the Stormtrooper. So, all very much iconic Star Wars designs. They're going to look really awesome in the game, I imagine. So people who maybe are not familiar with Star Wars could get into Star Wars through this. I haven't played Destiny 2, though I did play Destiny 1, but I think it is quite interesting. That content is available in Destiny 2 from February 4th, 2025, for anybody who's interested in playing that. Also, I think last time we spoke in depth was when we talked about Star Wars Outlaws. Have you been playing Outlaws anymore, and sort of what's your final quick view on what Star Wars Outlaws was?
To be fair, I've obviously finished the game. I enjoyed it. I haven't bought the season pass yet because I think I'm waiting for the Hondo one that comes out. I think it's like May time, actually. I haven't given a release date for it, but I enjoyed the game. I thought it was a cool idea. I think it could be expanded upon, but I don't know how it performed. But no, I enjoyed the game. The story was fun, and it did fit in. It did fit in quite well with the wider canon and the comics and all that. So I did enjoy that. For the next game, we're obviously all waiting to see when the finale of the third Jedi game comes out. That's the one I'm waiting for next. But Outlaws, yeah, it was fun. It was a fun game, and I'll probably replay it again at some point.
Definitely. And what's your thoughts on that? So obviously, we've had Jedi Fallen Order, we've had Jedi Survivor, the sequel, and rumor is, there's going to be Star Wars' trilogies, as we know, things come in threes. There is a third and final part of that Cal Kestis' story. Do you think we'll get that announced at Star Wars Celebration?
Maybe. I think they've tended to announce the game stuff like the actual game like awards or whenever E3 used to be, because I know everyone does their own thing now. They don't really do E3 anymore. But no, it's definitely coming. They announced it in a earnings call that they are obviously already working. This was a while back. They are working on Star Wars Jedi 3, whatever it'll be. And yeah, I am looking forward to that. Side bit on the game thing as well. Bit Reactor have been working on a Star Wars strategy game for years now, and they always like my stuff when I say I can't wait to see what they've been working on, and hoping we get some announcement on that, because that's one thing I really am looking forward to, a Star Wars strategy game like Empire at War back in the day.
Yeah, I believe that's been. I've seen reports maybe last week that Respawn were working on, so a similar team to what work on the Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor games, are working on a Star Wars strategy battle game. So we'll see, I suppose.
Yeah, it got announced. It got announced a while back. They said Respawn. I think it was off the back of Survivor. Off the back of Jedi Survivor, they said we're also working on 3 other games. Which is obviously Jedi 3. It was supposed to be they were supposed to be working like a first-person shooter type thing, which we've never heard anything of since. Then obviously working on this tied with a Bit Reactor, working on a Star Wars strategy game. So yeah, hopefully we hear something about that this year.
Hopefully, indeed. We move from hopeful Star Wars news to maybe something that's a little bit sad, I suppose, really. Obviously, Star Wars, the Galactic Star Cruiser, the Star Wars hotel / cruise / Disney parks experience, the first of its kind. Obviously, we know closed down maybe over a year ago now, I think. And it's come out recently that apparently it's being turned into offices for Walt Disney Imagineering. So Walt Disney Imagineering are the team who essentially build the theme parks and design them and conjure up in their heads, like how rides and how attractions work and how the lands work, everything from paying applications to ride systems to all of it. There's a brilliant Walt Disney Imagineering documentary on Disney Plus that I recommend everybody watch. It's quite in depth in different parts, and it follows the whole story of Walt Disney Imagineering from its creation by Walt Disney to the present day in the Bob Iger administration. Definitely worth watching. I think, multiple sources are reporting that the shuttered Star Wars Galactic Star Cruiser at Walt Disney World will be turned into offices for Walt Disney Imagineering, using the building as a base for numerous expansion projects across the 4 theme parks. It is disappointing news for Star Wars fans, obviously, as there was suggestions the experience might have been reopened, maybe as some form of diner or show experience. But yeah, according to several sources, including an individual close to the company, the building that formerly housed the immersive adventure, located near Disney's Hollywood Studios at Walt Disney World, is being converted into offices for Walt Disney Imagineering, the secretive arm of the company responsible for theme park attractions, retail locations, and cruise ships. Walt Disney Imagineering will be using the building as a hub for several expansion projects coming to the expansive Walt Disney World Resort, including, among other things, the Latin America area of Disney's Animal Kingdom, that will be home to Encanto and Indiana Jones themed attractions, the upcoming Cars Land and Disney Villains themed lands that are opening at Magic Kingdom, and obviously the Monsters Inc. land that is set to replace the animation courtyard in Hollywood Studios, as well as a few other things. So this is from the wrap. Now, obviously, I've not been on to the Galactic Star Cruiser, which was essentially billed as like a Star Wars hotel experience, but it was basically like a 2-day experience where you would board the Galactic Star Cruiser and it would take you on a cruise. So it was a hotel that didn't move, but you essentially cruising through the Star Wars galaxy. Things would unfold. It would be a storyline. You would take shuttles down to Batuu, which is of course Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, which is the Star Wars part of the theme parks in Hollywood Studios in Florida and in the Disneyland Park in on the West Coast in California. I think we spoke before about sort of on the Star Cruiser, and I think it was maybe too much too soon. It was almost Walt Disney Imagineering went crazy with it, which is what you want. You want your creatives to go wild, but it was essentially something that was just too much, too expensive to run. And people did go on it, but I think the numbers started to dwindle off as it was quite an expensive experience. I think you were talking up to $4,000 for the cruise, which certainly priced it out of maybe international customers. It was tailored more to American nationals, you could say, with that type of pricing. So what's your thoughts on sort of the Star Cruiser closing, and obviously the fact that it seems that now it's not going to come back as anything? I mean, let's just say, they're converting into offices. They haven't said like how much work's going to be done. They might just be working in those spaces, right? So they might not actually be transforming anything, and it could still be there for a later date. But either way, the fact that they're moving departments in there to work, to me, says that it coming back as any sort of experience is probably very small.
I would say I agree with you. I just think, like you said, it was for what it cost. I don't know about a lot of people, but I couldn't afford that. Like, I couldn't afford to, especially go over to America. Even if you live in America, $4,000 for a 2-day experience is a lot of money to a lot of people. I know there's people that probably could afford that, but there's a lot more people that couldn't. It looked amazing, it really did, but I think if you're going to spend that kind of money on potentially something, you want to do something a bit more. What's the word? A bit more real. Like I said, it's great, and for me, it'd be great if someone said, "Oh, you can go do it for free." I definitely have done it, but yeah, just for me, it's too much for what it was, and it looked really cool. It was a good idea. They've obviously actually bought the Halcyon, which is the ship that it's based on, into canon. It's been mentioned a few times in canon books and novels and comics and that type of thing. But for me, it was just too much money. It's just too much money for what people would be willing to pay, I think.
Yeah, and you got to remember that. I think for those wondering how it works for maybe like international guests, as someone who's been to Disneyland, someone who's been to Disney World, from the UK, you tend to you get your 14-day ticket almost, and you get that for like quite cheap compared to buying 14-day tickets at the park. So you'd be paying for that and paying for your normal hotels, and then you have to pay for this experience on top of it. And then for them 2 days, you wouldn't actually be in the parks because you'd be in the hotel. So it just didn't match with sort of those international guests. Obviously, for the internal guests, I know both Charlotte and Caitlin from Sky Talk, I think they were invited to sort of an opening party and they loved it. And There's some awesome content. If you go over to Sky Talker's Instagram, they've got some reels and stories on there from their time there, and certainly an episode on it. And I think if you go over to, again, friends of the show, Savannah and Tori on the Doki Diva show, they paid out their own pockets and they went sort of just before it shut. And, they talk a lot about how awesome the experience was. But again, sort of, it was less accessible to sort of non-US residents. And then even for US residents, it was still quite expensive. And you can see why people weren't going straight away, I suppose, because you would have to sort of save for it for almost a once-in-a-lifetime experience. The Rap had heard ramblings that the building was going to be potentially utilised for a several-hour-long diner theatre type experience that would use the hotel's lobby. That's used for key storytelling moments as part of the Galactic Star Cruiser, bridge, a bar, and restaurant, and that the gift shop would also remain open. But the Rap is now being told quite firmly that the building will not be accessible to guests at all. The reason why it could have been used was obviously the hotel is sort of linked with a sort of a shuttle system to Galaxy's Edge. So there is like transport in and out of there, which feels like you're going through Star Wars, but obviously that's not happening as we see. So, there's potential like away day for guests in the park to then go and experience some of the things that Star Cruiser had. But like I said, it looks like that is all on hold, and it is a shame. There's been some funny things online. I've seen people saying it's like, oh, you're putting the Walt Disney Imagineers are going in their own tomb that they built. So obviously they built this and then it sort of didn't work financially. But again, I think you've got. I mean, from what I've seen of the Galactic Star Cruiser, it was absolutely like crazy good. How awesome it looked. The experience looked absolutely fantastic. You actually look at you thought you were on an actual Star Cruiser. You thought you were going through space. There'd be wild interactions. The cast members were all in character. All the food was in universe. All the drinks were in universe. All the cast members were in universe. Events happened on board the ship that were part of the Star Wars timeline and canon. If you went down different hallways, you'd experience different things. If you're in different rooms, you experience different things. There was Jedi training on board. You could go on the bridge. You could fly the ship. It just seemed pretty wild. But obviously, the Imagineers really did build something very fantastical. But just sadly, it cost a lot of money to run, which in turn meant it cost a lot of money for people to go and watch it and experience it. And obviously, people weren't necessarily spending that money, so it became a I suppose a tax write-off. Disney shut it down so that they could save money on it. Any closing thoughts on the Galactic Star Cruiser or just Star Wars and Disney parks in general before we move on, Iain?
Really cool idea. Just for me, just too expensive. For me as an average person, it's just too expensive for it to ding. Like you said, obviously coming from your point of view, someone who's been to Disney World, it takes 2 days off your 14-day pass. So it's 2 days you lose that you're potentially paying on top of that. So yeah, to me, it's just a great idea, but yeah, it's just too much money for me.
Definitely. And just to go into a bit more detail, so this likely has to do with how cumbersome it would be to shuttle guests to the Star Cruiser building, which is it's in a backstage area of the park, basically. When the hotel was open, themed shuttles would transport guests to and from Disney's Hollywood Studios on the Experiences Away Day, where guests would have exclusive interactions in Disney Star Wars themed land Galaxy's Edge. Those shuttles could only carry a few guests at a time, which isn't ideal if you're trying to repurpose the space for a more inclusive dining experience. So if you were to do it the other way and just have it open as like a dining and theatre experience, you can't get many guests in those sort of shuttles. And like I said, they've essentially decided to make it integral to Walt Disney Imagineering doing to the park, because like I said, there's a lot of renovations happening at Walt Disney World, mainly due to them trying to up their game, because obviously Universal Studios is releasing sort of their new sort of Dark Universe park, which looks absolutely wild in a good way. And we've seen what was announced at D23 for Disney parks, as I mentioned before. Big changes coming. For me, it means that it makes sense to have somewhere on property that's behind the scenes, but also has good links to the parks for Walt Disney Imagineering to be to help sort of put all these changes and new building works in place. But those building works will finish, and when it is finished, maybe just maybe, if we're lucky, we do get some sort of some form of the Galactic Star Cruiser back which would be absolutely wonderful. That could be sort of, in 5 years' time maybe, but time will tell and time will see. They've done it, they've built it, they've shut it down, but they know how to do it and it is there. So can they bring it back? Maybe, just maybe. And if they do, I would absolutely love to be there. Moving on from that, we're going to go into some Star Wars merchandise. Once my computer starts working. Here we go. So, obviously, Star Wars, we all know Star Wars products and consumerism is a big part of the Star Wars machine and the cog and the dollar coming in. There's a new year-long Star Wars consumer products campaign launched as Power of the Force, which I suppose links into that Kenner 90s toy line. Power of the Force is a year-long products campaign celebrating all things Star Wars, including Revenge of the Sith's 20th anniversary, The Force Awakens' 10th anniversary, Star Wars Celebration Japan, Andor Season 2, and Star Wars Visions Season 3. So these are all the things that's going to be sort of in the spotlight. And the campaign will spotlight nostalgic and new Star Wars content via must-have collectibles, stunning new apparel pieces, innovative toys, and everything in between, with a special focus on products inspired by lightsabers, ships, and droids. Throughout the year, fans can expect new product reveals and launches from brands including Hasbro, Lego, Funko, Citizen Watch, Jazzwares, who of course do the Star Wars Galaxy Micro Squadrons, Roosevelt, who do the hats and the shirts, Rock Love Jewelry, tops, and more, plus fun surprises. Whether building iconic starships or Lego, Star Wars sets, collecting Funko Pop bobbleheads, or favourite characters, honing skills with a Hasbro lightsaber, or sporting the latest Star Wars apparel, Power of the Force celebrates what supercharges the Star Wars fandom. Fans can continue to power their Star Wars fandom with recently announced and released products from around the galaxy. And there's a few things already been announced. So there's a Darth Vader Tamagotchi coming. Obviously, we had the R2-D2 Tamagotchi in the past. There is a Ahsoka Citizen watch coming, as well as a X-Wing Rebel Alliance watch. Looks like we're going to get some awesome Funko Pops featuring Boba Fett, Darth Vader, Kylo Ren, and Clone Trooper 5s. There's jewelry coming. There is Phantom Menace-themed Galaxy Micro Squadrons coming from Jazzwares. There's mashup figures coming from Hasbro, lightsabers from Hasbro. As we know, the continuation of the 3 3/4 inch figure line, the vintage collection from Hasbro, and the Black Series as well. Obviously, I know both myself and you, Ian, both do love picking up the odd Star Wars purchase here, especially the Hasbro Black Series, for example. The Power of the Force, obviously, nice little slogan. It sort of blends into the past with, those Kenner figures. Got one sitting in front of us right now, an episode 1 tie-in figure, which was Chewbacca. Hoth Chewbacca, shall we say. That I'm looking at right now. But for me, what I'm excited about is we're getting the Revenge of the Sith 20th anniversary, the Force Awakens 10th anniversary, and we're going to be rolling back to sort of new figures from those legendary movies and legendary time. I think Revenge of the Sith, was legendary because we got sort of Anakin becoming Darth Vader, and we got the rise of the Empire, right? And the movie was awesome and deep. It was also the end of Star Wars, so all the figures we got at the time was sort of could be the last ones. So that makes sense. And then, of course, the Force Awakens is when the one thing happened we thought never would, and that was Star Wars came back, didn't it? So we've got those 2 anniversaries, so from 2 different times in the Star Wars timeline, so we get new products from those legendary movies. Are you excited about the Revenge of the Sith 20th and the Force Awakens 10th anniversaries and what it means in terms of getting awesome, cool merch from those time periods?
Yeah, absolutely. I remember looking at the Revenge of the Sith. It had like its own distinctive packaging and all that type of thing. That was really cool. So it's cool to. I do like. I've liked the last couple of years when they've done obviously the anniversaries for the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones and that type of thing. And no, I'm really excited for that. It's cool. I said me and you do like the odd Star Wars purchase, so I assume I'll get some this year. But it's really cool to see that Star Wars merchandise still does sell, because if it didn't, they wouldn't obviously produce it. So it is still a good thing to look forward to.
It certainly is. We've had some, for me, The fact that Force Awakens is 10 years old is that feels pretty wild. That
Crazy,
we're already at an anniversary for the Force Awakens. It's like time sure is flying by, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy that. Yeah, no, I remember going to the midnight obviously showing of the Force Awakens in Middlesbrough, and yeah, I can't believe that's 10 years ago in December. That's crazy, man.
Absolutely wild.
That's still the best. That's still the
Some,
best experience I've ever had in a movie theater. By the way, that was the best experience I've ever had in a movie theater because everyone, obviously, what's happened since then and people falling out and that was everyone was just united and they're like, we cannot wait. It's the first Star Wars film for 10 years. Yeah, 10 years. Yeah, 10 years, of course. And yeah, it was amazing.
It certainly was. We're going to move into some Star Wars publishing now. So there is a new Star Wars manga coming, Star Wars Path of the Lightsaber by Kenny Ruiz. It's published by Viz Media. It's coming later this year. It's set in between the events of The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker, and it'll feature brand new characters and original stories. In this new manga, fans will follow a young tinkerer named Naoka, who dreams of becoming a Jedi like Luke Skywalker. Their life is upturned when they stumble upon an actual lightsaber while investigating the ruins of a High Republic era ship. Of course, there are others who are after the ancient Jedi weapon, complicating her ability to learn how to properly wield the artifact as she tries to protect it and herself. If this tale sounds fun, don't worry, more information can be found on Star Wars Path of the Lightsaber at Star Wars Celebration 2025. So looks like it's going to be a big part of the publishing panel, which of course makes sense. I like how we're getting a story told in between The Last Jedi and The Rise of Skywalker here, and also how it's going to link back to the High Republic. Obviously, they're going to find the lightsaber on a High Republic era vessel. I don't know if you heard about this manga coming, Ian, but like, what's your thoughts on what you've heard then? The fact we're tying in sort of High Republic era to the sequel trilogy.
Yeah, it sounds cool. I do like when stories and eras interweave and we get stories overlapping. We saw that in obviously Jedi Survivor, which is quite High Republic centric, but still set obviously within the Dark Times era of Star Wars. I'm not a big manga reader. Like I don't think this is for me, but no, I'm really. It's always good to get those type of stories, and like I said, it's good for stories for different audiences within the Star Wars fandom. So yeah, no, it sounds cool. And yeah, like I said, I do like it when other eras interlap and we see different eras interconnect. If you know what I mean?
Definitely. Speaking of Star Wars publishing, I know obviously you are quite a big fan of Star Wars novels in comics. What novels have you been reading recently, and which ones are you looking forward to getting?
So I've set myself a challenge this year to read 20 books, and it's off to a decent start. I finally read The Living Force, which came out last year, which is obviously set with all the Jedi Council. That was a really good read. That was fun. I read that quite quickly. To be fair, it's just trying to clear my backlog of books. So that was a really fun adventure. Basically set a year before the Phantom Menace, and it was about the Jedi Council all coming together and Qui-Gon Jinn challenging the Jedi Council to help people. He says it's basically Qui-Gon challenging them because he feels like they've become too, as we see in the prequels, they've become too disconnected from the people they're meant to serve. They're very much seen as people who only serve the Senate, the politicians and the rich people of the galaxy. And it is quite a fun adventure. You get funny stories with Ki-Adi-Mundi and Stacey Tin and all the Jedi. They're a bit more background in the prequels. So obviously we get a bit more meat on the bones of them in the Clone Wars, but from the films and that was a really fun read. So I would recommend that. Currently at the moment, I'm reading an old Legends book called Cloak of Deception, which is it's my favorite Star Wars author, which is James Luceno. I've never read it. I've just started that today, so I'm looking forward to reading that. It's set like before the Phantom Menace, and I assume it's something to do with deceiving people. Obviously called Cloak of Deception. That's good. And then I'm looking forward to Mask of Fear, which comes out, which is the part of the new trilogy of books centered around Mon Mothma, Saw Gerrera, and Bail Organa. The first one's being written by Alexander Freed, who wrote the first Battlefront novel. What else did he read? He wrote the excellent Alphabet Squadron trilogy, which if you haven't read, I highly recommend. That was a really, really good trilogy of books centered around starfighter pilots and that. So yeah, he's writing the first one, which is called Mask of Fear. I've actually bought it from Inkstone Books, which I don't know if anyone knows about, but that is a bookshop that does like special Star Wars covers and that. So if I go on the website, I'll just tell you what you get for that. It's a really cool cover, and it's a autographed by the author as well. So yeah, it's a bit more expensive, but it did look really cool, to be fair. But yeah, that's what I'm currently reading. The comics and that we can get into after. Obviously, we discussed the books, but yeah. Reign of the Empire, Mask of Fear. That's what it's called. Yeah, the Mask of Fear by Alexander Freed.
And what about Star Wars comics? Have you finished any Star Wars comics recently? And is there any you're looking forward to? I know there's some big ones on the horizon.
Yep, I've read the whole Battle of Jakku. I can't. They called it they had like a special word for the series. I can't remember what it was called, but it was split into 3 arcs of 4 issues. It was 12 issues altogether, and it basically retold the story. Do you remember the Star Wars Uprising mobile game that came out when Disney first bought Star Wars?
Yeah.
Yeah, it basically retells a bit of the story of that with Moff Adelhard and that type of thing, and obviously what happens around the Battle of Jakku. So yeah, that told that story, and then looking forward, I'm quite excited for Star Wars comics in a way I've been excited for a really long time. We've obviously got Legacy of Vader, which starts this week, which is set after The Last Jedi, and it's all about Kylo Ren and his journey, obviously becoming Supreme Leader and that type of thing after obviously what we see in The Last Jedi and where we see him in thing. But I've already seen previews of it and that, and it's already him going back to Tatooine and being held by a Hutt, and I've seen an image the other night on Twitter where he's obviously got Snoke's decapitated body, and I think he flings it at the feet of the First Order and says, "I'm the Supreme Leader now. The Resistance did this," and that type of thing. If you know what I mean. But yeah, it looks really cool, and I can't wait for it to come out. To be fair.
Yeah, so Legacy of Vader looks really cool. Obviously, it looks like it's the telling of Kylo Ren finding his feet after becoming, the taking Snoke's place, I suppose. And that's, I think the first issue is coming on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So yeah, Charles Soule brings us the start of a new ongoing series, Legacy of Vader, which explores the rule of Kylo Ren. And obviously, Luke Ross teams up with Soule for the interior artwork. So number 1 is coming out this Wednesday. And yeah, sort of they teased a couple of previews. Obviously, one is sort of Kylo Ren addressing the First Order, sort of telling lies to them, saying, showing them Snoke's sort of cut in half body and saying this is what the Resistance did. We need to get better, and I'm the new leader. We all know it was him who did that. He killed Snoke, not the Resistance. And then obviously it is a bit where we do see him go to Tatooine, and from what I've seen, it looks like he starts to feel what Vader did. So it looks like Vader has gone back to Tatooine at some point and has maybe brutally murdered Watto, I suppose, but time will tell.
Yeah,
but that's
the
little
there's a lot of discourse about that, to be fair.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. Who knows? Obviously, the first issue is coming Monday. I'm not quite sure how many there's going to be. Is it 1 of 4? Do you know?
No, I think it's an ongoing one. To be fair, I think I'm just on the Wikipedia thing now, and to be fair, it's all the way up to 7 at the moment. So, but yeah, Legacy of Vader 1. The published summary says Darth Vader's shadow extends into the rise of the First Order. The reign of Supreme Leader Kylo Ren begins. Kylo's dark obsession leads him to Mustafar. What secrets does Fortress Vader hold for the young tyrant, and what face from the past will guide him on his quest? So it sounds pretty good, to be fair. Going back off the other comics that we obviously have, we've got the Jedi Knight series that starts in March. That is set obviously before the prequels, and we will get stories from every Jedi, even Count Dooku. There's obviously Jedi Dooku in this, and I've seen there's like a really deep cut villain that is going to be the main villain of this, but I can't remember. I think it's like Athea Prime, which I had no idea who it was, but apparently it's. I'm just googling it now. apparently it was a obscure character from like the original trilogy, Atha Prime. That's it. Yeah, that's yeah, and he's going to be the. I don't know where he came from, but yeah, he was. I'm just going on the Legends tab here, but it's quite a deep cut apparently. He said, Atha Prime, genetics master, genetics master and ruler of the Dark Worlds, was an arbiter of the Clone Wars and a co-conspirator of Grand Moff Tarkin. He was exiled to the fringe of the galaxy by Palpatine, although the Emperor's death in 4 ABY allowed Prime to return to the galaxy and begin a campaign of conquest with his clone warriors at his side and the double-decker Star Destroyer Annihilator. At his command, Prime waged war with the Rebel Alliance, doing battles with his heroes such as Luke Skywalker. But yeah, it's quite a deep cut who this villain will be in this series. So that's pretty cool that they're obviously bringing back old villains from the old EU.
No, it is. It's pretty awesome. And then, so we've got this Legacy of Vader comic, which is part 1, Reign of Kylo Ren. That's coming out on Wednesday. We've got Jedi Knights there. And we've got the adaptation of The Rise of Skywalker finally coming out as well. And then the general Star Wars title, which obviously, when Disney bought Lucasfilm, they put Star Wars back at Marvel Comics, where we started getting a Star Wars run, which was set between A New Hope and Empire Strikes Back. That then finished after a lot of issues, and then we got from Empire and Jedi, and then we're about to get in between Jedi and The Force Awakens. I believe, is that what's next for the normal Star Wars title?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Do you think this will tie in with sort of the Battle of Jakku and things like that?
I think it goes after. I'm just on the page now. Obviously, it comes out May 7th, so we've got a little while to wait for this. Obviously, written by Alex Segura, who did write the Battle of Jakku comic, and Phil Noto is doing the artwork for the comic. Publisher summary says, an epic new adventure begins for Luke, Leia, and Han in the wake of Return of the Jedi. New York Times bestselling author Alex Segura launches the bold next era of Star Wars. Luke Skywalker must defend the New Republic from a bloodthirsty gang of mercenaries. Han Solo investigates a deadly underworld mystery and saves a surprising ally. Leia Organa must grapple with a new alliance opposed to the goals of the New Republic.
Sounds absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
And I need to catch up on Star Wars comics. I've got most of them, I just haven't read them. Like I was up to date till about 2 years ago, and then I've read some but not others. I need to get caught up.
Yeah.
Anything else publishing wise that you want to talk about, Iain?
They revealed the cover for the finale of the High Republic the other day, Trials of the Jedi, which will be cool. I'm a little bit behind on the High Republic. I didn't read the whole thing, but I do know that who's writing Trials of the Jedi. I think it's Charles Soule, because he started it with Light of the Jedi, I believe.
Yes, he did. Yeah,
I think he's writing Trials of the Jedi. Let me just double check that. But yeah, they revealed the cover for that the other day, which is pretty exciting. I've liked the majority of the Trials of the High Republic books, so yeah, that's pretty exciting. And this obviously will bring down the culmination of that of the High Republic type thing. It is Charles Soule, yes, it is Charles Soule who is writing it. The publisher, I'm not going to read the publisher summary because it will take too long. But yeah, I saw a quote from Charles Soule saying basically, even if you haven't read the whole run of the thing, it's still designed so that people can pick this up as their first book and still know what's going on, which is pretty cool.
Indeed. Moving on from that, obviously I know we mentioned Star Wars merchandise before and the new initiative that's coming. Obviously, since we last spoke, it's been a while, a few months, I think, on the podcast anyway. Any new Star Wars merchandise arrived at your homestead?
Yeah, I've got a few new things. I obviously told you before the podcast I nipped up to Forbidden Planet before Christmas, and I did say if I were to find a Balin Skull and Shin Hati Black Series figure that I would get them. They're the ones with the robes, which are pretty cool, so I got both of them. They're probably my two new favourite characters, obviously in a long while in Star Wars. So yeah, no, especially Balin. Yeah, they were good to get. I got them. I'm just trying to think. I got a couple of older figures. I got the old like orange box Boba Fett that I used to have back, which is pretty cool. I'm just looking around now. Just that for now. I've got a couple of figures ordered. I've got the Prince Shizor Black Series, I think that's due to come out in March. Obviously, if anyone doesn't know who Prince Caesar is, back in the day there was this it was a bit like the High Republic back in the day, a multimedia type big event. Shadows of the Empire. He was he was the main antagonist of that story. His name has been mentioned in canon, so the name Prince Caesar is canon. But I really liked him from Shadows of the Empire, and also I got, which is something I was definitely going to get. They're going to do a Anakin Skywalker Clone Wars like he was in Ahsoka season 1. I've got that ordered as well, which I was always going to buy because that's my favourite character. So yeah.
I've just placed an order for the Anakin Skywalker Black Series from in the Clone Wars gear, but the live action one from Ahsoka and the
that's what
Phase 1 Captain Rex. I've pre-ordered those, so they'll be coming here soon. And then I haven't opened them yet, but on the Echo Base trading and selling group on Facebook, I picked up 4 Phantom Menace battle droids. So for those who don't know, when the battle droid was released in 1999, it was sort of one SKU, but there was like 4 different paint jobs on them, and they're very similar, but there's 4 distinct different ones, and all 4 were available on a good deal. So I picked those up when they've arrived. I am tempted to collect all of the Phantom Menace figures again, and maybe make some content opening them, perhaps. But we will see.
What group was that, mate?
What group
was that? Echo Base. What group was that? Echo Base.
Yes, I can fill you in on that.
Oh yeah, please do.
Yeah, we'll do. But I think that brings an end to sort of certainly all the topics I had to speak about. Is there anything Star Wars that you want to talk about, Ian, that we haven't yet?
Not off the top of my head, no, really. I'm looking forward to Celebration. Hopefully we get some things announced. I am hoping that we get a new animated show, or potentially 2. I did see a rumour a while back that there was 2 in development. I am missing a bit of Star Wars animation. I started watching a bit of The Bad Batch again the other day, just because I'm missing, obviously, that weekly little fix of Star Wars like storytelling. So I do hope we get a new animated show announced at Celebration. Something comes out this year, potentially end of the year. But other than that, no, nothing to add, mate. Just really, really nice to be back on the show, and obviously we'll make more of a habit of it.
I think it's very possible that, obviously, I think, Disney and, Bob Iger, they're very much moving sort of the big projects back to theatres. So, we're seeing that with Marvel Studios, we're seeing it with Lucasfilm. They're wanting to put Star Wars and Marvel movies back in theatres. I think we'll get live action Star Wars on Disney Plus maybe once every 2 years, maybe, unless there's a certain dream project. But I think Star Wars animation is the future of Star Wars on Disney Plus, which is great. Certainly give us that. And, I have heard as well that there's possibly 2 Star Wars animated series in production at Lucasfilm Animation. And, what better way? You've got Disney Plus there, stick them on there and we can all enjoy them. And hopefully, I would like to think with the way Star Wars animation is, the projects are usually almost done and then they announce them, if that makes sense. So they could essentially announce one, hopefully, at Star Wars Celebration in Japan in April. And then, we could get that later on in the year. Obviously, as things stand, we are set to get Cassian Andor Season 2. That will be in April, just a few days after Star Wars Celebration in Japan itself. So, that's the only Star Wars project that's penciled in for Disney Plus, apart from Vision Season 3 this year, if you think about it. So it's probably the lightest year on paper so far. 2025 is going to be the lightest year for Star Wars content on Disney Plus, if you think about it that way. So that's why I think there is an animated series done, and we're probably all going to get it this year. I would like to think it'll just beef it up a little bit. Won't be as big as it was last year, but it'll beef it up a little bit and keep us going until May 26th when we get that Mandalorian and Grogu movie in theatres. Ian, where can the people find you on social media?
You can find me on X and Blue Sky and Instagram at Star Wars Ian.
And you can find myself on X, formerly known as Twitter, and Instagram at Geordie Jedi Pete. You can find the podcast on X at Boars Star. You can also find the podcast everywhere else at Star Wars Podcast. That includes YouTube, LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, you name it, we're there. The next time you hear from us is on February 7th, where it will be International Star Wars Podcast Day 2025. So we're 1 week away from that. Stay tuned to see what we have in store for our very special episode on February 7th. If you are listening on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, please leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a lovely little sentence. It keeps us smiling all day. Only takes you a few moments to write, and it does help people find the show. If you are listening on any of the other wonderful podcast applications, there certainly is a lot of them now. Again, just leave us a top review, all of the stars that you can. Again, it keeps us smiling all day, helps people find the show, and only takes you a few moments. And if you are doing that, certainly take a screenshot, send them to us on social media. We might very well just send you a little gift. Thank you very much for listening. May the Force be with you all. And remember, always tell that to Kanja Club.